What is force? Force is a push or a pull on an object. What is motion? Motion is the change in an object's position over time. Every movement in the universe is governed by force and motion. Planets orbit stars because of force. Cars accelerate because of force. Airplanes fly because of force. Athletes run, jump, collide, and fall because of force. For over 300 years, much of our understanding of force and motion has been shaped by one man, Sir Isaac Newton. Newton developed 3 fundamental laws of motion that explain how objects move throughout the universe. The first law, the law of inertia. An object at rest remains at rest. An object in motion remains in motion at a constant speed and direction unless acted upon by an outside force. The second law, F equals m times a. Force equals mass multiplied by acceleration. The greater the mass of an object, the greater the force required to move it. Heavy things are harder to accelerate. Heavy things are harder to stop. Heavy things are harder to change direction. The third law, for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Every push creates a pushback. Every collision creates resistance. Every force encounters another force. Newton's laws explain nearly everything we experience. Nearly everything. Because somewhere in Akron, Ohio, a basketball player arrived who seemed determined to spend his entire career arguing with physics. His name was LeBron James. And according to basketball fans, gravity never received the memo, because LeBron James doesn't move the way someone his size should move. He doesn't accelerate the way someone his size should accelerate. He doesn't jump the way someone his size should jump. And he certainly doesn't dunk the way someone his size should dunk. According to Newton's second law, heavier objects require greater force to accelerate. That makes sense. A freight train requires more energy than a bicycle. A truck requires more energy than a motorcycle. An elephant requires more energy than a dog. The bigger the object, the harder it should be to move. LeBron James entered the NBA at approximately 240 pounds. Eventually, he would play at 260 pounds or more. That is the weight of an NFL linebacker. That is the weight of a defensive end. That is not the weight of a player who should move like a point guard. And yet he did. From the moment he entered the NBA in 2003, LeBron appeared to violate Newton's second law, because he wasn't supposed to accelerate that quickly. At 6'8" and over 250 pounds, he should have required time to build speed. Instead, he reached full speed almost instantly. 1 dribble, acceleration, 2 dribbles, acceleration, 3 dribbles, disaster. Defenders would position themselves perfectly. Then suddenly, they weren't in position anymore. The lane would appear closed. Then suddenly it wasn't. The defense would appear organized. Then suddenly it was chaos, because LeBron James wasn't simply moving. He was generating force. Imagine standing in front of a speeding train. That's what many defenders described. Not because LeBron was reckless, because he was unstoppable. There have been many great dunkers. Michael Jordan soared. Vince Carter flew. Blake Griffin exploded. Derrick Rose attacked. But LeBron James was different. LeBron James arrived. There was a feeling that accompanied his dunks, not elegance, not artistry, inevitability, like a storm moving toward shore, like an avalanche rolling downhill, like a freight train leaving the station. You knew what was coming. You simply couldn't stop it. Then there is Newton's first law. An object in motion stays in motion unless acted upon by an outside force. LeBron James might be the greatest example of this law in basketball history. Once he starts moving downhill, stopping him becomes nearly impossible. Entire defensive schemes have been built around preventing him from gaining momentum, because coaches understood a terrifying reality. The moment LeBron gets moving, physics begins working against everyone else. Defenders retreat, big men rotate, help defenders slide over. Everybody knows what is coming. Yet somehow, it still happens, because stopping motion is difficult. Stopping LeBron James in motion is even harder. His famous chase-down blocks tell the same story. Most athletes lose speed over distance. Most athletes tire. Most athletes slow down. LeBron accelerated. An opposing player would think they had an uncontested layup. The crowd would relax. Then suddenly, a blur appeared. A giant blur. A 250-pound blur moving faster than players half his size. And the basketball would disappear into the backboard. Physics wasn't supposed to work like that. Yet somehow it did. Or perhaps it didn't. Then comes Newton's third law. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. This is where LeBron becomes truly fascinating, because every collision involving LeBron appears unequal. A defender steps into position. LeBron attacks the paint. Contact occurs. According to physics, both players should experience equal force. Yet basketball fans often witness something entirely different. LeBron remains standing. The defender landed 3 feet away. LeBron continued toward the basket. The defender searched for balance. LeBron finished the dunk. The crowd exploded. Again and again, season after season. The same story repeated itself. People often compare LeBron James to a freight train. That comparison isn't accidental. Momentum is mass multiplied by velocity. LeBron possesses enormous mass. LeBron possesses extraordinary velocity. The result is enormous momentum. And momentum is difficult to stop. Very difficult. Ask the Detroit Pistons. Ask the Boston Celtics. Ask the Toronto Raptors. Ask the Indiana Pacers. Ask anyone who spent years trying to stop him. Entire franchises became case studies in force and motion. The most terrifying version of LeBron appeared in transition. A rebound would be secured. The ball would be pushed forward. The floor would open. And suddenly, physics class began. 1 dribble, half court, 2 dribbles, free throw line, 3 dribbles, dunk. The sequence happened so quickly, it barely seemed real. A man weighing over 250 pounds crossed the length of a basketball court like a wide receiver, then elevated like a high jumper, then finished like a demolition crew. The rim became the final victim. And perhaps that is why LeBron's dunks feel different. Many players dunk over defenders. LeBron dunks through situations. He dunks through rotations. He dunks through strategies. He dunks through game plans. He dunks through expectations. The laws of basketball seem to bend around him. Just as planets bend space through gravity, LeBron bends defenses through force. Gravity itself deserves discussion. Gravity is a non-contact force that pulls objects toward one another. On Earth, gravity affects everything. Cars, buildings, animals, human beings. Everyone falls, everyone comes back down. At least, everyone except LeBron James. Because throughout his career, there were moments where gravity appeared delayed. Moments where he seemed suspended. Moments where he remained airborne longer than logic allowed. The famous tomahawk dunks, the soaring finishes, the windmill slams, the chase-down blocks. For brief moments, LeBron appeared disconnected from Earth's most fundamental force. Of course, gravity still existed, but it certainly didn't appear to have authority. Then there is durability, one of the most overlooked aspects of force and motion. Every collision creates wear. Every impact creates damage. Every season creates mileage. Physics tells us repeated force should eventually break down a system. That system, in this case, is the human body. Yet LeBron James has spent more than 2 decades challenging that assumption. Year after year, playoff after playoff, finals after finals, Olympics after Olympics. The force remained, the motion remained, the acceleration remained, the dunks remained. Players younger than him retired, stars rose and fell, entire eras changed. LeBron kept moving. Perhaps that is the greatest violation of physics of all. Not the speed, not the strength, not the jumping, the longevity. Because eventually, everything slows down. Cars slow down. Machines slow down. Athletes slow down. Time wins. Yet somehow, LeBron spent 20 years negotiating with time itself, and often winning. That is why force and motion is the perfect description of LeBron James. Because force isn't merely what he generates. Force is what he represents. He is a force on a basketball court, a force in sports, a force in history. Motion isn't merely how he moves. Motion is what follows him. Defenses move, crowds move, franchises move, championship windows move, entire eras move. Everything changes when LeBron James enters motion. Sir Isaac Newton gave us the laws that explain the physical universe. They explain acceleration. They explain momentum. They explain gravity. They explain reaction. But basketball fans spent more than 20 years watching a player who often seemed determined to challenge every one of them. A player too big to move that fast, too heavy to jump that high, too strong to stop, too durable to decline, too powerful to ignore. His name was LeBron James, the chosen one, the freight train, the force of nature. And every time he drove down the lane, physics became less of a law and more of a suggestion. Because for one of the greatest athletes the world has ever seen, force and motion weren't scientific principles, they were weapons, and every dunk was proof.